give a short introduction of who you are and what you do.
Hey everybody, Mike Sample. I'm a managing director at Newmark. We're a global brokerage firm based actually just down the street on Bush Street here in San Francisco, and glad to be here.
I am Matt number one, Matt Kinkaid. I am the director of sales for Brandcast, a website platform for building all the websites you need in real estate.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Matt number two. My name is Matt Staublin. I'm a HOK technical principal here in San Francisco. HOK is a global architectural and engineering firm.
Hi, I'm Erina number one. I am co-founder and principal at VMO. We are a commercial real estate branding and marketing firm with a specialization in really data-driven and measurable marketing.
So, panel, we've talked a lot about technology adoption, implementation, how things are playing out, but I want to talk about timing. Why are commercial real estate professionals investing in technology products and services right now, and why is it important?
All right, I'll dive in. So we've talked a lot about how real estate is sort of this lagging industry, right? And I think, frankly, everybody's been pretty polite here today, right? I mean, real estate is a dinosaur, right? I mean, this is a bunch of sticky notes and golf courses is the way it's always been done. So why now? I mean, when you think about it, when you think about how big the industry is and how much money we're talking about and how unbelievably old and stale it is, I think this is why it's happening now, right? I mean, if you think about, there are 2.25 million apartment buildings in the US. The property management industry is a $91 billion industry. And you think about the amount of money being left on the table. So when you ask why now, I mean, I think it's just because it is so desperate for change and because there's such a huge opportunity to capture. And finally, we're catching up to it.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, it's desperate for change, and you see so many other industries throughout the entire country being completely revolutionized. I mean, think just insurance, right? Like it's a stodgy industry as well, and they're going through massive change. Healthcare, the same thing. So, all of the companies and groups that we work with are at that leading edge of innovation. And so, as a broker, for me to be able to stay relevant and in front of them and be able to help them in the way that they need it, we have to innovate, we have to change, and we have to adopt tools that really speak to them in their own language. Just sticky notes and golf courses isn't really going to get it done. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were more fun, maybe, but.
Yeah, they were. No, and I think the trend really comes from the expectation of the people that we're working with and the audience that ingests our industry reports, our portfolios, the different things that we're doing. With their expectations and in our world of websites of everything being online, that means you need to be online with them at every point in the customer journey.
Absolutely.
So
Matt S.
To make sure I understand, repeat the question.
My question is, why is it important that commercial real estate professionals are adopting technology tools now, and why maybe now are they starting to pay more attention to technology than moments in the past?
Well, just look back 10 years ago, and things have just incredibly changed in the last 10 years, and they continue to go on that pace, and they'll continue to go even faster. But you have to be smarter about how you run your buildings. And I think one of the more promising things that I've seen is that the smart building revolution is something that's really piqued my interest just in the last few years. And it's just amazing the things they're doing in Europe, which I think we need to start translating over here into the US to really kind of keep up with just the trends that are really happening so fast. Again, over in Europe and other foreign countries. So that's what makes me excited about adopting and getting to know as much about the technologies that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Matt, we'll stay on you for a minute and just talk about how technology is helping you harness, evaluate, and visualize data to specifically deliver projects more efficiently, right, on the project management side of things.
Sure. So yeah, the harness, there's so many different ways we can capture data, and capturing data from analytics to just how people use a building and how you kind of actually can use sensors and stuff to actually map out how people move throughout a building or a stadium or a airport. It's just spectacular how many things that you can actually harness by using the technology that's out there. What was the second thing?
Evaluate.
evaluate
and visualize.
And visualize.
And
So
it could be either or.
evaluating the work that we do. Again, it's very similar. You have different ways to kind of compare and contrast the pros and cons of the different designs that we do. So you can run designs through different algorithms to actually study how buildings move and how the different permutations that you can actually switch around in a floor plate. And we couldn't do that before. I mean, now we can actually run 100 different possibilities and see from a developer standpoint, what's the most what maximizes, what's the most efficient, and and even for their tenants that are going to move in, what are the things that they can bring to make the best choices. Visualization, is that's changing so much just in the last 2 years. Obviously, I think I heard Alan mention, virtual reality. There's augmented reality. There's VDC, which is another, visualization tool. There's models that we use for developing designs, both from an engineering and architecture standpoint. So visualization, you can put on a set of goggles, as I'm sure most of the audience has done that before, and walk through a building. Or you can actually stand and actually see a hologram in front of you and actually pull and stretch and develop different design ideas as you sit there and stand with a group of people or a group of designers and developers to see the different possibilities. So there's so much exciting things in technology.
And it also speaks to this kind of elevated experience of collaboration in teams, and we'll get into that a little bit later into the collaboration side of things. Right. But tremendous for just working together on projects. So, Erina, my next question is for you, and we'll jump into kind of the data mixed with marketing side of things. But how can data inform marketing strategies for CRE? Be it owners, developers, brokerage professionals. And can you maybe give an example of how you're, putting that data to work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a really common scenario that we have, and it may be a big institutional owner like a BlackRock or managers like Greystar, for instance, they'll come to us and they'll say, I've got this asset, I'm treading water at 70% occupancy, and I don't know what's wrong. I think I'm priced competitively, I think my on-site team is good, and I'm throwing, I'm just hemorrhaging money, I'm sort of doing this total spray and pray, I keep doing the same things, and I'm seeing my occupancy drop, and I'm looking at my upcoming rent roll, and I'm down to 50%, and I'm going to start losing, $500,000 a month in cash flow. And so people will come to us in these scenarios and they say, the old model isn't working, and so we need to do something differently. And in those instances, what we can do is we can actually look at the data of the past 12 months, as a for instance, and get very specific and laser targeted in terms of understanding where in the sales funnel is your issue. Are you telling the wrong story to the wrong people? Are you telling the right story to the right people, but you're just not telling it to enough of them? Are you telling a killer story, and then they get to the on-site experience and they come across the threshold, and your building is just showing terribly, or turns out your manager is a total jerk, right? And they're secretly in the back room, like playing, Farmville or whatever people play. So I think it's all about really understanding how can you look at the data and in turn make marketing really serve as a core lever of your asset strategy versus just an expense line. So we see that all the time, and I've seen really tremendous results that when you just actually look at the data, instead of looking at the speculation, you can find out exactly where the issue is and then really affect change very quickly.
Matt K, how do you think technology is maybe either elevating or changing the expectations for a commercial real estate marketing executive?
Absolutely. Well, internally, in terms of our expectations, the more data that you do collect, the more you want to act on it. And I think once upon a time, we used to be okay with sending the email on a new property, spray and pray, but these touch points in this customer journey are so essential, and every piece of data that we learn from each of these plays so much into how we can get them down the funnel and where we want them to be. In regards to the expectations on that, it's really on both sides, both internally for the people producing those marketing materials and then for the end customer themselves. I'd say overall the end customer does expect everything to be online at their fingertips on every device and every moment. And we are an industry that used to love PDFs, and those don't exactly do all the wonderful data-driven, exceptional things that we want when you're ingesting it, as well as when you're actually trying to see if 10,000 people looked on this, what did they find most interesting? What did they click on? Do I want them to click on that? Now, on the flip side, as well, I think on both sides, there's an expectation that all of this has an uber level of sophistication with the content we do with virtual reality and drone videos and beautiful copy and content and all these type of things. So really, it's about refreshing end to end and understanding how to drive every single piece of your funnel, which is a lot to accomplish, but done well. Really some of the best.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Erina, are you seeing the role of kind of the commercial real estate, let's say CMO, change because of some of these new expectations over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm just excited that there are CRE CMOs finally, right? It's like, I think, 5 years ago, there were like 2 or 3 of them. So
true.
yes, absolutely. So I think the expectation, right, especially where we are in the cycle, right? So if you think about the fact that there was be it the core markets or the emerging markets, there was a little bit of an if you build it, they will come scenario. Our firm's based in Seattle. We're in Amazon land. You literally, you built a Class A plus office, you marketed it for $4 a foot, and it was full. And so I think as people are seeing a possible upcoming softening, and as people are understanding that consumers are more demanding, they're smarter, they have higher expectations, and the tolerance for friction has become almost non-existent, right? You look at a beautiful site and you realize that the reason nobody's, engaging is because they can't chat or text. I mean, consumers have become required so, little friction that I think we just are expecting more and more of marketing in real estate, and so it needs to be done in a better and better way. And I think marketing is just taking more of a seat on the harder side of the table, which we of course love, right? Which is to really say, for every dollar in, what are you guys getting it? How do you measure it? If you think about ROI, we think about ROMI, return on marketing investment, right? And how does this serve truly as a core lever to get you to your pro forma? How do you find that integration between the business, the brand, and the built environment versus having marketing sort of serve as the coloring in department, which it was for a really long time, right? It was like, getting TCO in 30 days, I'd better get a logo, right? So I think it was really this idea of, no, how can marketing help me meet and beat the market and get a premium price for my product?
Absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense. Matt S., I want to move back to you and ask, an interesting question about virtual design and construction, which I know you guys utilize within your group. And my question is, what is virtual design and construction, and what are the key benefits for your group as well as other commercial real estate professionals?
Well, to begin, the definition of VDC, visual design into construction, is a tool that's really picked up by our contractor team. Once the design team gets done with producing a BIM model, or the BIM data that goes into the model, they hand it off to the contractor team, and then they take it and they enhance that. They enhance all the data so that the data is now even a higher level of detail. The contractors of today are much more savvy with just taking the data and actually using it to build the building, and coordinating and making sure that all the clashes that could be potentially avoided are done. So it's a tool that we use to kind of go from the design team, hand it over to the contractor and builders team, and then we work together and collaborate to help make that model even more robust and stuff. And then ultimately, the challenge and the goal is to hand that model over to the owner or the facilities management team, where they can actually kind of keep an eye on running the building. And the way I like to use the analogy of, if you have a jet airplane, and the pilots that are piloting that plane, they can tell where any trouble is going on anywhere on that plane. So I think that's the vision of the future, is to use these models to collaborate with all your stakeholders. And if you have a large facility, you're able to, through the use of sensors and other Internet of Things, technologies like that, light sensors, all that is kind of grouped into one. And you can spot any kind of failures going on anywhere in the building. So I think from a performance standpoint, I think that pays dividends back to the developers. Anyone that's wanting to develop commercial real estate needs to understand that that is a tool that the design industry is working very hard on.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. I think as well as a variety of other visual technologies that you mentioned earlier that play a role in the many life cycle, aspects of the life cycle of a building. Erina, I want to ask you about how commercial real estate companies should be utilizing market data within their design process, and also kind of at what point in the design process should that information come into play?
Yeah, so I think the answer is earlier than you think, and you're probably not beginning it early enough. So as I mentioned, we do a lot of work on underperforming assets. We also do a lot of work in ground-up developments. And where we see, frankly, just the most exciting opportunity is when you can really, from the very beginning, say, who is my target user, be it on the multifamily side or the commercial side, who is my target user and what is it that they really want and need? And think of that as sort of the first layer of your Venn diagram. And then say, what's my competitive set and where have they left a white space, sort of the proverbial red ocean, blue ocean theory, if you will. And then from there say, and what can my project, be it existing or what I'm planning to develop, be more successful at than anybody else? And so I think it's beginning with that data. I mean, again, the number of projects where you go and you say, well, gosh, you guys did so many 2s and 3s. Tell me about that. Because it seems like when we look at your total addressable market, that you're going to be mostly looking at 25 to 35-year-old mobile techies and singles. So why do we have a building of 2s and 3s? And it was like, well, the architect we worked on really specialized in that. So often I just think, the data should be brought in even earlier in the process and then really look at it. And even, for instance, as simple as doing a total addressable market analysis. Look at your asset or your intended development and literally say, how many people are here? How many people are here within the age brackets who I think will live here? Now, how many people are here within the income brackets that I'm going to need to be able to be here, or who can pay the freight for this office, or will be in spaces the way that it's going to demise? So I think if you can do that early on, then you don't end up having to sort of retrofit your building into kind of what, a mistake that maybe got made when you were going through, your EDG process versus when you're literally opening the doors and realizing, I've built a building that is exactly what the market wants, and I know that because the data told me so.
Right, early on in the design process. Yeah, absolutely. Matt K., how are kind of new tenant and resident expectations driving commercial real estate professionals to kind of adjust their marketing tactics, kind of in this same sphere?
I believe one of our presentations from our other vendor regarding foot traffic and those type of things was very interesting. But I think it's the general idea that any information that helps inform their decision, especially on the tenant side when it may be that all-important business or something, that needs to be driven by real-time information and up-to-date information. And
you want to just speculate or like take a guess or have like a think and drink or...
And let's face it, when we are creating a lot of our marketing materials, time is not usually on our side, especially when it comes to the last minute changes. And in the end, to best serve our clients, the best way to serve them is to be able to react very quickly to a changing marketing environment and be able to get that information to them every way they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And enable them to also change things as they need, right? And as they see fit.
I don't work too much in that. We just bring them in with the websites, not too much thereafter.
So Mike, I want to talk a little bit about collaboration. You have a lot of experience in this field, both from the technology side of things as well as now the commercial real estate side of things. So how is technology elevating the way commercial real estate professionals can collaborate on projects?
I'd like to first start out by asking everybody, who's worked with a commercial or a residential broker in their experience or interacted with any of them? Yeah, so a lot of us, right? So I'm sure in the different people you've interacted with, you get a very different level of service or different experience with each individual person you work with. And on the commercial side, I think it's taken the commercial brokerage world a lot longer to adapt new technologies of collaboration or tools just in our own practice. Whereas in the residential world, you have Zillow and all these other, Redfin, all these other tools out there where you can really see and understand, okay, there's comps in the neighborhood, there's market information at my fingertips that can help me make an informed decision. And so in terms of how here at Newmark and how we decide and try to approach the market and essentially create a better experience for our clients is by using all of the tools that they're using. Things like Dropbox or Box or Google Sheets, collaborating in real time where instead of just sending them an Excel document with a financial model, it's active in real time with the CFO on the phone, things like that that make the user experience that much better. Other things like Slack and just instant communication. I think when you're out looking to buy a home or you're looking to rent an office, probably one of the worst things that you can have in just an overall experience is not having the knowledge or data at your fingertips to be able to make an informed decision. And some other collaboration tools that we've used also is like drone footage. Drone footage has been huge. It's been wildly successful in allowing a CEO sitting in San Francisco at his desk to view an office space in Atlanta and give the thumbs up or thumbs down on it with his local boots on the ground. I mean, that right there is something that my colleagues and I try to leverage at any point we can. So, I think the other thing to think about too when it comes to real estate is it's so much of a physical aspect, right? You're sitting in this office building on Bush Street in San Francisco, but there's people all around the country that have made decisions about this building, whether it's architects, it's marketing people, it's websites, and just having that kind of global national viewpoint of things and how they work, I think is what's really helped my team be successful, and we enjoy doing so.
Really interesting. Yeah, you don't usually think of drones as playing a role in collaboration and internal operations. Super interesting. It's clear that technology can definitely facilitate a higher level of collaboration, but what are some of the challenges that you guys are seeing on the front lines that are still hindering adoption? You all have a totally different perspective on this. But Matt K, maybe from a client standpoint, you can speak to that.
I think any point you look to address any business need with technology, you're kind of opening up an issue of bringing on a number of different point solutions to solve individual problems. And inherently, when you do that, you break down collaboration and the way things beautifully flow into systems and stay centralized. So in regards to collaboration, just making sure that things are always top of mind, keeping in mind the workflows of all the people that it takes to get a project out the door. Those are the things that need to really stay top of mind throughout, or else you'll make more problems by bringing on solutions.
Really well put. Erina, did you have something to say
Yeah,
about
I think I would just add that again, kind of, it's interesting. Some industries are just much more hungry for change, right? And there's a culture of change, and I think we're getting there. But I think one of the biggest challenges to this is also that there's a bit of a glass ceiling in real estate in sort of a lack of desire to change, because I don't want to automate my accounting reports because I like the 10-person staff that does it. Or I don't really want to understand why my asset is or isn't performing because now I'm going to be held accountable. And so I think there is also just a reluctance to change because there's been sort of a bit of an insulation that's come with the way that it's always been done. And well, gosh, marketing, I don't know, it's just sort of art and science. We can't measure it. We'll just need another $100,000. And so I do think that sometimes there's a reluctance just because we're raising the bar.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think with change and the reluctance in commercial real estate, which is absolutely there, way more so than other businesses that I can think of, those that adopt that change and are able to get in the forefront of it are wildly successful. I mean, I can think about a good example, a lot of you might have heard about is WeWork, the co-working kind of boom, if you will, right? They've come to San Francisco and they're now at least 1% of our overall inventory in our market. I mean, that's huge, over 1 million square feet. And you have landlords that have been rejecting that, right? They're like, you're cannibalizing my own companies and my office buildings. And you have others that have said, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to try to figure out how to solve this and provide a shorter term lease for these startups. And that's kind of a great example of, it's a kill or be kill, if you will, out there.
And not only on the landlord side, but on the brokerage side too, right? There's certainly, do you want to speak to that at all?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's each individual broker is kind of their own individual business. So those that I've got a Newmark flag, right, but I'm my own individual contractor. So if I'm at the forefront of change, I see way more success than those that don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, please.
So I would add in, just from our perspective as architects, designers, engineers, I notice it's a really different lens that you all look through when you're looking at commercial real estate and the disruptors. So, what the biggest challenge I think we face is that there's just so much technology wanting us to, explore and use it and adopt it. But I think once we get past the challenges of selecting which types of tools we're going to use, they actually invite collaboration. I think it enhances it. Teams actually, the design teams actually work more collaboratively. The when our clients come in and actually we present designs, we're able to collaborate more closely, because it's not just looking at 2D drawings up on a board or a screen. I mean, it still happens that way to some respect, but you're also able to really dive in and actually walk through a three-dimensional space. And I think from like looking at stuff on your phone in a three-dimensional environment to putting on a helmet or a set of goggles to actually, I think especially when you can kind of get almost like an avatar moment where you're actually living in a movie and you're actually able to actually see your neighbors standing around you and walk through a building or a campus or something like that. I think that really invites collaboration that we didn't have. It's just getting better and better. So I think from our perspective of technology and the visual tools that we use, I think that's what I can explain.
We're working in a pretty good time right now in commercial real estate. There's a lot of cool stuff to be had and to continue to learn about. But I guess my question that brings me to my last question is, what are you guys most excited to see either mature in the market, existing, or still yet not existing to be built in the future? Could be anything.
Well, I'll start off with where I touched on another question earlier. I think the most exciting thing to me is just the potential that we have in our new developments, and as we design as teams, and knowing, I think it's surprising to me just the number of designers that are unaware of the vast amount of technology that can actually run your building. I mean, we talk about workplace and different ways to kind of configure teams into smaller environments. I mean, we have hoteling and that sort of thing, and we can actually, in some respects, build less building. And instead of, we're looking at case studies where you're building 30% less of the building for a headquarters because they know that not every employee is there every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and from sensing the moment you walk into a building and knowing who you are, and it kind of helps direct you through using your smartphone where to go sit, booking conference rooms, booking desks that are, it kind of gives you the intelligence of how to get the most out of your day. To me, that's the most exciting thing that I think I look forward to seeing just in the next 5 years how it's going to advance.
Yeah, really exciting. Matt, yeah, go ahead.
I think I'm excited to see a re-understanding of what technology is supposed to do for this industry. 5 years ago, I feel like most pieces of technology that were telling us that this is the new way of commercial real estate was aimed at really replacing the human element, the broker, the team that gets those documents together. And the trend was really not one that benefited any of us, because at the heart of this business is people, and we're the ones that get everything done. I'm excited that we've now reached the point, and will continue to, that technology is meant to empower all of the team members that get these deals across the finish line, understanding who these people are, from a designer to a marketer to a broker to a research analyst. What are the things that they need to be great at their job, and what do they need to work with others to really push the whole industry forward? I'm very excited to see that we're stopped trying to replace people with technology. We're trying to make everybody better with it, and that's just a fun place to be.
That's a fantastic point. Really very interesting. Mike, please go ahead.
Mine's a little different than the rest, but what I'm interested in seeing over the next, call it, decade is the blockchain technology and how that will, totally revolutionize the commercial real estate industry. I mean, everything from whether it's office buildings or residential buildings being sold on the exchange and letting kind of a micro ownership of sorts given to just essentially the entire world, where you could own a portion of, say, the Transamerica Pyramid. That'd be pretty interesting. And then on the contractual side, smart contracts, and how smart contract technology will totally make the end user and the person signing the lease feel a lot more, I don't know if comfort is the word, but secure in their agreement with the landlord. So I think those two things for sure.
Interesting. Erina, please.
Yeah, so I think from a macro perspective, it's really this idea that real estate is shifting from this B2B mindset to this B2B to C mindset is something that I'm really excited about. And
Yeah.
that real estate is really this stage on which life happens, right? And the fact that people are now thinking about spaces as that and thinking about how you create just much more integrated, organic, collaborative spaces, be it, public-private cross-pollination, integration between retail and office. So just that mindset and what's coming down the pike I'm really excited about. And then at a much more sort of personal level, thinking about the fact that there are just, there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of marketing being wasted every year. So when we look at that and see the opportunity to fix that and to change that, that's something that I'm super, super excited about.
Oh, it's tremendous, absolutely. Well, I'd like to say thank you all for lending your insights and exploring this conversation with me and all of us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.